Hey, it's Ed here. Welcome to another edition of Lessons from My Mentor. They say whenever you do videos or podcasts, you should never refer to the time in which you're in because it'll kind of shorten the shelf life, if you will. But being a major Vikings fan from 1975 when I first came to the United States, and tonight's a big game. They're recording right before that big game, so got to wear the hat. But one thing I want to talk to you about is something that what we might think of as minutia that we don't spend a lot of time on, and it's related to HR. And whether it's annual reviews, which I've covered previously, or this topic, which is succession planning. We're so busy, right? Dealing with all the politics, dealing with strategy, dealing with relationships, dealing with, all the day-to-day crises that might happen, that we sort of brush the HR stuff to the side because it's not like urgent in our face. But really, what I learned from my mentors is that the more effort we take on all that HR stuff, which may seem like a waste, actually will save us a lot of time and heartache, stress long term. But it's hard to do. It's hard to think that way. I know there's always the crisis of the urgent. There's always something to do that's burning, and the HR stuff you can kind of put away. And depending on the strength of your HR division, you may not have to worry too much about it, right? I worked in organizations where HR wasn't all that strong, and so you can kind of like slough your way through it. And I worked in others where it's like super strong, and there was no way that you were going to like overlook some of these things like succession planning. So that's what I want to talk about. So whether or not your HR is stern on these sort of things or even emphasize it, I've worked in organizations where there's no talk of succession plans. And again, another organization where this was top of mind for the organization. CEO realized it was all about the people, it was all about the leadership. And so he needed to make sure that, next person up, who's the next person up? So this is my mentor, Tom Zenti, is my formal mentor. He was the CEO of University Hospitals. This would have been around 2004, 2005 timeframe. So he ingrained all this stuff in me, and he strengthened the HR division when we were there. In fact, I think I know that the HR EVP that he brought in is still there today. He's awesome. He came from outside of healthcare. He's just awesome. And so I learned all this stuff from them. And so I tried to practice it. I'm not perfect at it, but I try to keep this discipline because, again, the more time you spend on this and doing things right on the HR side, long term is going to help you save time. In the here and now, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to do this, I got to do that. Oh my God, it's going to take so much time. I don't have the time. But I'm telling you, the more you invest now, the more dividends, like most things in life, that pay off downstream. So let's talk about how you might do this. So number one, check with your HR, see what they have in terms of succession planning. If they have nothing, go to AI and just ask for a succession plan. And there'll be a lot of them out there. So in real simple terms, you can do this all on one page. I think you already know from my style, I like to do everything on one page. If it takes more than one page, super not interested. So to the extent you can, try to do all this on one page. I believe in going two people deep. So let's just say you have a director. That director should identify two people to take their place. So that gives you depth. Who's the next person up? Who's the next person up? Imagine now everyone's doing this. Your EVPs, your SVPs, depending how many levels you have, your VPs, your AVPs, your directors, your senior directors, your managers. I take it all the way to manager level. So everyone should have two people that are in their succession plan. Like when I've left organizations, it was clear who, at least on an interim basis, could take over. And so even in my last provider organization, we were pretty deep. And so when I left, it was no big deal. Next person up. And if you do it right, they take it next level. He leaves, next person up, ready there, and not a big deal. So you have that consistency. So even though you may only be there, like in my case, 2.5, 3 years, you still have that consistency because that person in your succession plan has been there probably that long. And now they're there for a few more years before they leave 4 years later, whatever, you got 7 or 8 years. But that other person that's in that succession plan has also been there from that same time period. And so now they're carrying it forward. So I think you could see, and you keep building that back, what it does, what great things it does for the continuity of leadership in an organization and stability of strategies and stuff. Because, whenever you have a lot of people leave, it doesn't matter if it's 3 years or 5 years, there's a shift, right, in strategy and things like that. And so this provides us continuity. The other thing it does, which is as important as anything else, is what a great thing for that person that's named in your succession plan. Think about it. Let's take it down to a manager level. Let's say you have managers, they have to go too deep. So you're an analyst and your manager comes up to you and says, I've tagged you. I see a future for you. I see leadership on you. Is that something you're interested in? I see this greatness. And then you build a plan, right? That's the next step. Is one thing to have a succession plan, but everyone should have a development plan. And again, you can do all this on one page unless your HR has a multiple pages. So do that, right? You would easily be able to do this where you would have a development plan that says, okay, in 1 year, I want you to be prepared to take a manager role should one become open. And this is what you need, right? Maybe they need some more schooling, some training. Maybe they need experience leading, so you let them lead. So there's all sorts of pretty simple things like this that you can do that not only protects the organization and gives them that continuity of leadership that I talked about, but you're raising leaders up, you're developing them, and then you're giving them hope. And you're probably going to get loyalty as a result, right? Because oftentimes, like if I'm an analyst, let's just say I'm a manager now. I'm a manager, like I'm thinking I want to be a director, in a few years, but there's no opportunities here. So I'm going to go look across the street, what director's level stuff they have got there. Well, if you've got one of these succession plans in place and a development plan to complement that, why would I go across the street? Wow, these people, this organization really thinks something of me. They're investing in me and I want to stick around. I love this place. So it's just a win-win-win all the way around. So again, first, check with your HR. If HR is not strong in this, do it yourself. It's going to pay dividends. It's the right thing to do for your organization. It's the right thing to do for the people that you lead. And again, from a selfish point of view, it makes your life easier. So put the work in and it'll pay dividends because ultimately we need you to help leverage technology to enable better experiences for our patients, their families, for our clinicians, and as well as ultimately to save people's lives.